Have you ever heard of a small video game? Its name is Call of Duty. It is a first-person shooter. They have a game mode where you are up against waves and waves of zombies. I played a lot of zombies as a kid with my older brother. It's been years since I've played video games with him. I have since started playing Black Ops with my wife. She loves playing Town and loves to sit in the corner in this cage with a magical box that gives you random guns. She wants the ray gun, which is a weapon that you get from this box at random. It's one of the more harder weapons to get. Most games, she isn't lucky enough to get it. In those moments, I wish I could give it to her. But I am a woodworker, so I worked on making a wooden ray gun for her. Here you can see that I'm laying it out on every single side of this 4x4 cedar post that I cut up. I kind of just freehanded this, just guessing what the proportions should be. On my next version, I'm kind of gonna tighten up those parameters and get a more finalized product out of it. Right here I noticed that it's not very sharp, so I take it out and sharpen it, and it's cutting a lot better. You can see I am working on the very front of the barrel, almost where there's a sort of nozzle. I just want to get that and the actual cylinder that runs the full length to their final thickness. It's here that an individual chunk flies off, and you can kind of see that I'm just unsure of what to do. I ended up just gluing it back together though. The next day, we are right back at it, cleaning up all the glue and fully finalizing that main barrel size. We can now start rounding off the main body of the ray gun and start developing where the end is. Quite new to wood turning, and after joining a bunch of Facebook groups and talking to people, This tool that I'm using is called a skew, and I use it for every single step, and you are not supposed to use that for every single step, but I am learning as we go. So as you can see by my amazing camera work, I am moving the tool rest, as you want to be working relatively close to the project and always put pressure against the tool rest. I was just kind of jumping back and forth here because I wanted to try and get it close to the plan, even though I didn't really officially have a plan. I am starting here with a piece of 6-inch hook and loop Velcro sandpaper, and I believe that it is 80 grit. I just folded it in half, and then you saw there I was cutting it and then folded it further. I have since bought sheets of sandpaper, and I think they will be a lot easier to get into strips and really get into those fine areas. I am moving over to some old belt sander strips that I had. They are 80 grit. Fun fact, if you use sandpaper that is roughly the same size as the gap, it will get caught in the sides and hurt a little bit. And learning from that, I ripped it in half, and I was really able to sneak into those small crevices and sand everything very nicely with that 80 grit. And just get all of the markings and everything from the actual lathe work out, as I do not think my tools are sharp enough. While I am working on the rings on this one, I will mention that I am starting to make a second version of the ray gun where the rings are actually laminated out of poplar. It is right here that I feel like it's pretty much done for sanding. You can see I got the saw, and if I could go back and do it, I might have put in some wood filler in it. The rings have a bit of tear out that I just wasn't a big fan of, but I probably would have done more wood filler and more sanding before I took it off of the lathe. won't believe it, but I forgot to film the starting of my dado cuts for the back spinny part of the ray gun. That mallet that I'm using there is actually one of the first projects that I ever made on a lathe, and I use it quite frequently. It is just a solid oak mallet. Here I am cutting out the shape of the handle on my Mastercraft bandsaw. We then move over to my Delta belt sander, and I believe that this is either 60 or 80 grit. Either way, it is doing a lot of sanding very quickly, and it's just to get the more ergonomic features of the handle. So that's going to be rounding over. As you can see, I'm doing that. And later on, I will be putting in like some finger indents to make it more comfortable to hold. I wish I would have just printed out some reference, but I keep having to check my phone and reference it. It would be a lot easier if it was just a printed copy I could have nailed to the wall or something. This is some new fast setting, no more clamps glue from LePage I wanted to try out. Afterwards, it does okay. I found that I do still prefer to add on at least a little bit of clamping pressure. I have since purchased some Type On 2, and I will let you guys know how that compares. I did have one heck of a time with the handle. I was trying to avoid using some plywood, but the way that the grain structure goes, it was just so fragile and it kept chipping out or just straight up breaking. So I wasted a ton of time fixing and repairing multiple different versions of it before just switching over to some nice plywood that I had. This part was definitely stressful. I tried my best to mark out where the holes would line up, but it was, in the end, just my best guess. I held the part up and kept trying to put it next to it and see, but it did take a little bit of finessing. Here I am looking for the piece that broke off of the handle guard. As I mentioned before, I was still holding out hope that I could use a solid piece of wood. This is where the common sense came in, and I finally realized that it was time to just make it out of some plywood. So I started to cut out the handle out of plywood. I then took that lesson learned and made the back loops also out of plywood, just to skip any unnecessary breakage. This is a nice little bit of kit that I got from Mr. Jeffrey Bezos himself. It is essentially a spindle sander for your drill. I have not got the space or the money for a spindle sander just yet, so this is what I use. I have to make it smaller. So, if I would be in there, see there's a small gap, so it's not the right size. It's close. It's good enough for a proof of concept. I got a visit from my lovely cat. She likes to come and watch me woodwork sometimes. I think it's just she likes to be wherever I am. It was at this moment that it really started to come together, but apparently I did not get footage of me drilling the other holes, just of me finishing everything. I want to thank you guys for watching and supporting. I want to give a little sneak peek. I have my heart set on another fictional video game gun. It is from the Portal series. I'm going to try and make the Portal gun next. So subscribe if you want to see that.